All right, it is 1 p.m., so we will go ahead and get started. Welcome to the Okaloosa-Walton 2045 Long Range Transportation Plan Cost Feasible Plan Public Workshop. Good afternoon, and if you're, we've got some steering committee members in attendance that I see on our go-to meeting, as well as some of our ECRC team. And there may be also others on YouTube watching this, so thank you for taking the time to participate. My name is Jill Nobles. I'm with the Emerald Coast Regional Council. We serve as staff to the Okaloosa-Walton Transportation Planning Organization, or TPO. This meeting is to go over the final phase of the 2045 Long Range Transportation Plan and get the public's input specifically into the process and the projects that we're moving forward with. So this is the TPO boundary for the Okaloosa-Walton TPO. It does go completely around Crestview and Defuniak Springs on the northern end, and then just follows the county boundary lines all the way down south. So the way the TPO planning process works is that it all starts with the Long Range Transportation Plan. This is the foundational document for the TPO and how projects that are utilizing state and federal funds get accomplished. It needs to be in our LRTP. There's two main lists in the LRTP. There's the needs plan. As it sounds, that's all the projects that are needed over the next 20 years, and then the cost feasible plan. It's a much shorter list of what we can foreseeably afford over those next 20 years. The Long Range Transportation Plan gets adopted every 5 years, and so we're doing that right now. And like I said, it goes out, this go around, it's going out to the year 2045. So in another 5 years, we'll look out to the year 2050. And so that process is done every 5 years, but every year we take that cost feasible plan, so all the projects that we can afford through that horizon year, and we prioritize those projects. Those are the project priorities. We then have the TPO, rank all of those projects, and we hand that over to FDOT and say, this is the TPO as a region, these are our priorities. FDOT takes that to form their 5-year work program. And then after the state approves that, we develop the Transportation Improvement Program, which shows project by project, phase by phase of what phases for each project are getting funded over the next 5 years. And so that's done on an annual cycle. So we started the 2045 LRTP last summer, so a year and a half ago almost. We looked at how the region looks right now. We looked at the demographics, the socioeconomic demographics, the existing conditions for the roadways, and just to see where we're starting from. From there, we had our steering committee, which is made up of staff from the cities and counties and the public members from like our Citizens Advisory Committee, and they develop goals and objectives of kind of like the blueprint or foundational objectives for what they want to see the TPO region function as far as transportation is concerned. From there, from those goals and objectives, we developed evaluation criteria for each goal. And we'll get more into those evaluation criteria in a minute, because those do play into how the cost feasible plan was developed. But then we looked at the financial resources. So all the money that we can see that's coming in to the TPO region over the next 20 years, how much is it? What can we use it on? And then we developed what we call the CMP plan, or congestion management process plan. And that just takes a look at the roadways in terms of congestion and how to maintain and more efficiently operate what we have right now. And it develops strategies, for dealing with congestion as it is now. Then we got into the fun part of these last two phases of the LRTP development. That's the needs plan and the cost feasible plan. So that's whenever we take a look at all the projects that are needed. And this is, all transportation projects. So it's not just roadway capacity for vehicles. It's also bicycle and pedestrian facilities, transit operations, even, not just capacity, but maybe complete streets, where we're looking at possible road diets or other types of improvements within the existing right-of-way. And then, so we take that needs plan, the list of everything that the region needs to be able to efficiently, or have an efficient transportation network through the year 2045. And we have to, take into account those financial resources that we looked at earlier and pare that needs plan down to the cost feasible plan. And we'll get into how that was developed in just a minute. So these are the 6 goals that were developed, and there are objectives for each of them. And we do encourage you to look on our website to find all these materials. But the overall goals for this plan are a safe and secure network, user-friendly and multimodal. So making sure that everyone can use the transportation network, not just vehicle drivers, but also bicyclists and pedestrians. We're looking at the effective movement of goods and people. So we want to be able to move those people and those goods around effectively. We also want a high quality of life. So, looking at other things than just getting from point A to point B, but making that a more pleasurable experience and, helping out the cities and counties that these roadways are going through. And then we also want a transportation network that's maintained and operated efficiently. We want to, have a system that looks well and is taken care of, and that way we are utilizing our resources in a better way. And then the last one is that it is consistent and cooperative planning. So we're working with our local partners as well as our state and federal partners, and making sure that we're on the same page with everyone as to this plan moving forward. So like I said, we developed the evaluation criteria so that way it would mirror those goals. So and again, all this is on our website, but for the safety and security, there's multiple evaluation criteria as to more quantitatively measure a safe and secure roadway. And these are working with the steering committee, these are the percentages we put for each of these goals. So the next step was to look at those financial resources. There's lots of different ways that money is funding this TPO process, and there's federal dollars, there's lots of state dollars, local dollars, and other financing options, like different loan programs or grant programs. So in summary for the financial plan, this is the overall projects that are dollars that we can see coming in. Again, it's broken down on the left-hand side with SIS highway construction and right-of-way. What SIS is the Strategic Intermodal System. These are more of our backbone network. It's a state designation of, you know, major facilities like I-10, 98 that have these major connections, and it also includes connections to military bases. So 85 is on there as well, US 331. And so that's that top row, and then they divide it out through time periods, and then a total is on the far right. So that's the major source of funding, is for those, you know, those major network roads, is the SIS roadways. Then we've got the non-SIS, and this is the pot of money that the TPO has the most control over, because this is it's a lot more locally driven. And then we have transit funds, and then TMA SU funds. While that is at zero, once we're foreseeing that after the 2020 census results come out, that the Okaloosa-Walton TPO will become a transportation management area. It just means it's reached a certain population threshold, and it could receive potentially extra funds through that. And again, this is all in millions of dollars, so you can add 6 more zeros to these numbers. So that brings us to where we're at today, is the cost feasible plan. And we're going to get into how that was developed. A couple months ago, we did hold the needs plan public workshop, and you can even go back and look at those documents on our website, or the public workshop video for that. So we are in the draft stage where the TPO has not adopted this. We'll be asking them to adopt the cost feasible plan at their December meeting. But so like I said, it is all based off of the needs plan, and all these roadways are identified as some type of improvement, whether that's capacity, a corridor study, complete streets study or project, widening, intersection improvements, and transit projects as well. So we took that needs plan, and in order to develop a final cost feasible plan scenario, we first developed three different scenarios. So scenario 1 is, it's based off of our current, or the TPO's current project priorities. So we're looking at the project they've already identified and said to us that they use are important. And so whenever I go through these projects, I'm gonna, you know, usually start in the Defuniak Springs area and then go clockwise around the region back up to Crestview. So this one actually starts in Freeport. We've got the State Road 20 widening in Freeport area. Going down south, we've got let me actually put on my arrow. All right, there's the State Road 20 widening. Then we've got the West Bay Parkway Extension Project. This light pink road that's in this scenario is the Niceville to Destin Express Transit Project. And then there's the US 98 multi-use path on Okaloosa Island. And then we've got the Hollywood Boulevard Extension Project. And then going up to Crestview, we've got Crestview Bypass East Project, and then intersection improvements on State Road 85 at the PJ Adams intersection and the US 90 intersection. All right. Oh, never mind. Don't know how this works. Okay, let me see if I can get the arrow off. Okay. There we go. All right, for scenario 2, this was the evaluation criteria scenario. So looking at those evaluation criteria that we developed, that would that would then quantify how well these projects are doing based on the goals we identified. And you can hopefully see, there we go, here. Let me just do this instead. There we go. And the light green is scenario 2 project. So in the Defuniak area, we've got 331 being widened north of I-10. And then we have 331, a capacity project going south of Freeport all the way down. And then along US 98, we have adaptive signal system. So a little bit more intelligent ITS, or intelligent transportation system. Pretty much the signals are all talking to each other, and they're more adaptive to the traffic. It's not just one setting. It's got cameras that can see, oh, okay, well, at this time we need to allow a little more green time, but the next cycle it might be a little less. So it's, like I said, it's more adaptive to the ongoing and current changing traffic patterns. And that goes all the way through Destin. And then we've got the US 98, also along US 98 is a multimodal bike ped project. And then US 98, there's a corridor management study in the Mary Esther Fort Walton Beach area. And then we've got a Lewis Turner Boulevard 6-laning project. And then on 85 is a corridor study. And then interchange interchange project at 85 and I-10, so improving that whole interchange. Scenario 3 is the multimodal scenario. So it puts a lot more emphasis on those bike ped projects that have traditionally not done well in either the existing priorities or the evaluation criteria. So just making sure that we have a scenario that is a lot more bike ped friendly. That way, whenever we do develop our final scenario, we can pull the best of the best projects forward. So for scenario 3, in Defuniak area, we have the US 90 trail, which is actually both counties, Okaloosa and Walton counties, all the way on US 90. And then in Defuniak, there's a separate US 90 Complete Streets project. We also have the 20th Street Sidewalk project in Defuniak Springs and the Bruce Avenue Extension project. And then there's a new roadway, County Road 280A, and that's just south of I-10 on the east side of 331. And then in Freeport, we've got the State Road 20 widening project came up again. And then in South Walton County, there's a bike ped project. It's a multimodal facility that's parallel to US 98. And there's also a transit circulator project along Scenic Gulf Drive. That express transit between Niceville and Destin also came up through this scenario. And then in the Destin area, there's Mattie Kelly Boulevard, and it's a capacity project and an extension down to US 98, sorry. And then there's several Destin bike ped projects. These are sidewalk and bike facilities on various roadways in the Destin area. And then across Okaloosa Island is the multi-use path project. Going into Fort Walton Beach, we have the Around the Mound project for US 98. That'll take US 98 out of downtown and go around to make that connection. And then just like in Destin and Fort Walton Beach, there's several bike ped facilities in the downtown area on different streets. And then there's also on Beale Parkway, we have a transit route service identified for this scenario. And then going north to Crestview, this State Road 85 project that's highlighted is actually a corridor study. All right, going into the hybrid scenario, this is what we're calling our final scenario, or what we're really looking for input on. We took a look at all 3 of those scenarios. While all of them are great in their own ways, they're not all encompassing or what we want to fully go with. We've reached out to our steering committee members, have had separate meetings also with the cities and counties, just trying to further refine what worked well in those 3 previous scenarios and what didn't, what did we miss. And so you'll see some projects that were in those scenarios, and you'll see a couple that were not. So this is trying to, just come up with the best of the best. So starting in the Defuniak Springs area, we got the Park Alternate 3. It's a new roadway project. The US 90 Complete Streets project in Defuniak Springs. A pedestrian crossing at Baldwin Avenue on US 331. And a Bruce Avenue extension project, kind of on the southwest quadrant of Defuniak Springs, making a connection there. Going into Freeport, there's a Water Tower Road connector, also making a little bit more connections for the Freeport residents and travelers. There's a State Road 20 widening that came up in several of the scenarios. And then there's some connections and improvements between Shipyard Road and Marquee Way. Moving south, we've got the West Bay Parkway extension project that goes into Bay County. There are several 30A complete streets improvements identified. And we do have on the map the Forest Road, or the South Walton North-South connector. And I'll show you the project phases later on. But this is currently being funded with local funds for the PD&E study right now, so that's why that project is on there. There's some bike ped project, a multimodal facility that's parallel to US 98. And again, there's the US 98 adaptive signal control system in the South Walton and all the way through Destin. Again, we've identified that Niceville to Destin transit service. And then just north of there is the Spence Parkway widening project. Then going back towards on Okaloosa Island, that multi-use path came up. And into Fort Walton Beach, the Around the Mound project. And then the Hollywood Boulevard extension in the Mary Esther area. Then going north to Crestview, we've got the Crestview Bypass East, as well as the Crestview Bypass West. There are two options on the West Bypass that it's just not determined which one will go forward, but for this purpose, we wanted to display both, but knowing that only one will get picked. And then there's several intersection improvements projects in the Crestview area. There's PJ Adams Parkway at State Road 85 and PJ Adams Parkway at Crabapple and State Road 85 at US 90. So you may say there was nothing on those major network roadways. Those are the SIS projects. We pulled those directly from the Florida Department of Transportation SIS plan. And so those roadway networks are State Road 85, US 98, US 331, and I-10. So you'll see this is where those capacity projects for those roadways are funded. On this page is the I-10 widening pretty much throughout the whole area, and the State Road 85 from just north of I-10 all the way down to 123. And for this, pretty much the I-10 is the way you can read all these. Anytime you see the green and the red, green is it is funded through the year 2045, and red is the funding has not been identified yet through the year 2045. So right-of-way and construction for I-10 has not been identified for funding. However, the intersection west of Crestview at the Antioch Road, PG Adams interchange will be funded. And then there's also a 6-laning in 98 that's currently being completed right now. And then for State Road 85, there is funding identified to complete the construction from Mirage Avenue to State Road 123. So moving on, that first project is that third segment of State Road 85. And then we've got the US 98 project widening in Mary Esther and Fort Walton Beach area, or really Mary Esther and further west. Everything but right-of-way and construction has been identified for funding. There is a complete streets kind of a project in the Destin area for US 98. And then the Around the Mound project also has funding identified. So for these next few projects on the bottom of this page, we've got US 98 at Danny Werfel Way intersection improvement, right-of-way and construction not funded, and the intersection or more of a flyover interchange because there's some issues there with, it's a very heavily trafficked interchange or intersection US 98 and 331. We'd need to go back and do a PD&E if we were moving forward with this project. So no funds were identified by FDOT for this project. And then for an interchange east of Crestview, also this is not identified in the SIS plan. And then US 98, widening it to 6 lanes on that far eastern end of Walton County region. Again, right-of-way and construction not, but the PD&E or project development and environment study and the preliminary engineering or design funds are identified for funding. And FDOT breaks down the SIS plan as the first 5 years. And these are the maps for got the interstate map on the left and then the non-interstate map on the right. And then the second 5 years, and that's only showing a design along 98 in Walton County. And then their long-range cost feasible plan, which shows a lot of different, in the red is construction. So you can see a lot more going on in that longer time frame. All right, for those non-SIS projects that we went over on the map, I know it was small, but there's also a bunch of different what we call mobility programs. Sometimes they're called set aside or box funds. So on an ongoing basis, we've got money going to Okaloosa and Walton counties for their area-wide traffic signal system operation and maintenance. And then what we've done, we've got this next one is transportation planning studies. Previously, we had identified several different types of studies, whether that was a complete streets program, corridor management studies, even alternative fuel stations, just various different types, receiving anywhere from $50,000 to maybe $200,000 a year. We've decided to make this a little bit more flexible in order to, really have the TPO, give the TPO the flexibility to determine what they need each year, and also broaden that the money for it to $1 million every 5 years. That way, if there is a $50,000 project that they, a study that they want done, they can still do that. But if it's something's a little bigger than what we normally would see, they could put in for that as well. And then the same thing for the transportation planning study implementation projects funds. So that's taking those studies in the previous row and looking at what comes out of those studies as recommendations for improvements and being able to fund those improvements. And then we have the last row is the Intelligent Transportation System Advanced Traffic Management System. And this is just a one-time cost to build a transportation management center and for upgrades for that transportation management center. So these are all those projects that we just talked about. Those first 5 are those mobility programs that we had talked about, fully funded through the year 2045. And then going into the individual projects, which I went over on the map. The first 2 are on SIS facilities, but they haven't been identified in the SIS plan. So we're funding them with the TPO's non-SIS dollars. So we've got the US 98 Around the Mound project, and then the US 98 6 laning of that on Okaloosa Island. And again, everything but construction is funded for that. And moving through, I'm just going to highlight, since I did list all those projects earlier, I'm just going to highlight the red squares, which are phases that are not funded. So for the Crestview Bypass West project, everything but construction. For State Road 20 widening in Freeport area, everything but construction. Hollywood Boulevard is only the PD&E study and the design. And then for the West Bay Parkway Extension Project, everything but construction. And then I will say this bottom row with the blue is local funds. So Okaloosa Island Bridge to Bridge multi-use path, that's all being completed with local funds. So for this one, everything is funded with the exception of Spence Parkway, and that's everything but construction for that project, and that's the widening along Spence Parkway. And then this one is everything is funded with the exception of the South Walton, that north-south connector road from 30A to US 98, or Forest Road, as some people call it, Point Washington State Forest, Deer Lake Park area. And again, the PD&E, like I said earlier, is currently underway by the county, and that was paid for with local funds, but otherwise it is not in, no other phases are in our cost feasible plan. Now I'm going to turn it over to Ray to give an update on our public outreach.
Thanks, Jill. Hi, everyone. As mentioned, I'm here to explain from a public involvement perspective how you can talk with us even more. Let's go to the next slide. So this information that you're going to give us is not just for our purposes in creating the document, but it's also for helping our TPO board and subcommittees vote and approve the final plans. So again, you've already checked off many of the ways to get involved, but as a refresher, you can keep the door of communication open by subscribing to our emails, and then give us a follow on social media so that you can easily share our news and survey with others. So on this next slide, we'll see how you are luckily able to kill 2 birds with 1 stone by following the link in that QR code there. You use your smartphone camera to scan it. You should see a link pop up. Click on it and you can answer any of the questions that we ask. And then you can also fill in the small email subscription form on our virtual open house website that is listed in the chats or the YouTube chats as well. It's linked in the YouTube description. for good measure. So you've made a great step just by attending. I did check the survey status before I hopped on, and so far 35 people have filled it out. That's great. That's a wonderful number to hear from people, and we want to see that grow. So thank you for coming. I'm open to any questions you may have.
Thank you, Ray.
Thanks, Jill.
So the next steps is we take this to be adopted at the December 9th TPO meeting. We will be asking for the needs plan and the cost feasible plan to be adopted at that time. I'm going to open it up to questions. I know there are some people on the YouTube video. If you just want to leave a comment, we may have to get back to you at a later time. But for those on the go-to meeting, if you do want to unmute yourself and introduce yourself and ask a question, you are more than welcome. All right. Thank you so much for attending. And again, feel free to reach out to me with any comments, questions. The website has all of my information, as well as the 2045 long-range transportation plan, all the documents, and ways to contact us. All right. Have a great evening. Thanks, guys. Bye.